heard this track before.
It seems familiar, but it's definitely nothing you've heard.
I don't know.
I think we just go like, what would you call this? House? Techno? I mean, like at this point, there's so many ways of classifying music like this.
This is a little housey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all season we're going to do like house music. Someone out there's going crazy because this probably has nothing to do with house music.
No, it's a little, I mean, yeah.
Hang on, the beat's going to drop. Jesse, the beat's going to drop in a second.
Okay.
This is when everyone goes crazy at the rave. So I've heard.
Well, let's wait and see what happens.
And then the DJ is waving their arms.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
It's all right.
I am legally obligated to tell you that Alex Productions is the maker of this music. The song's called Fight, which there's no intention behind that. It just happens to be called Fight. I just thought it was a good way to get the season going.
I agree.
If you can call it a season, I don't know. It's kind of a test right now. This may not make it. People may hear it. I don't know. But I will say that it's a miracle that I was able to set this stuff up. It's been packed away for...
How long has it been?
I don't know, a year?
Yeah, easily.
You think so easily?
Yeah.
Oh boy, sorry.
Well, I'm just thinking about when we got the new Uno, our multi-person little room.
So you're basing time on when we got deliveries of furniture. That's how you're basing time.
Well, it's such a different configuration in the office. I'm like,
yeah, that's true. We moved stuff around.
Before we were 30 feet away from each other.
That is true. Yeah. But I do that too. I'll be like, when did we get that rug?
Yeah.
Oh, that's when I spilled my, and then you can start to associate time. I do that.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Because you were trying to figure out when you spilled something?
Well, on the rug, actually. So it's easy. But it's a miracle that we're here doing this and that I can hear you right now and that people can hear us. But it's going to be a bigger miracle if once I get home, I'll know what to do with the recording, because the software is like a whole new thing. And I just don't remember any of it as I was setting this stuff up.
There are a lot of pieces too.
Yeah. And somebody told me how to do this. Yeah. They came in and they set it up and they were like, okay, good luck. And then we kind of figured everything out. So it's a miracle that we're here, that it's operating. I think, okay, I had a little snag, but I figured it out. But when I get home and I look at this software, I use Adobe Audition. There are so many things and I don't remember what any of them do. So you might sound like Alvin from the Chipmunks. I have no idea what's going to happen to the sound. But anyway, the other thing about season 3, or the first thing I should mention, because we haven't really talked about it yet.
That's what we're doing right now. We're starting season 3. It's
going to be a never-ending season.
Great.
As far as I can see it. Yeah, because last time in the past we've done seasons and we had 10 guests or something, and it was every Tuesday something was released. We're not going to do that. We're just going to find someone when we want, record it and release it when we want. And I'm sure everybody was just waiting on every Tuesday or Friday or whatever it was for an episode to drop. But now we're just going to rely on social media, just let people know there's something new.
Love it.
It's too hard to do the 10-week cram. I couldn't deal.
You spent a lot of time on this.
Yeah. And I mean, it's probably one of the reasons I procrastinated in terms of getting back. I thought, I don't have a solid 10 weeks where I could just dedicate to this. So, but it allows us more flexibility. So
the setup looks cool in the office too. Not that anyone ever comes to our office still.
No, before we were like, well, first of all, we were really far away because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then COVID sort of was less of a concern. So, but we stayed far apart just based on the way the furniture was laid up. And now I have got these facing me. I've got 2 comfortable like blue lounge chairs. You're in one of them. Our third person's, our guest, will be in the other chair. You're both backlit, so I don't see anything, regardless of the fact that you're right in front of me. Jesse's taking a picture right now. I'm comfortable on the sofa. I'm posing.
Yeah, well, it's just funny because Dave is in a call room behind
then we have call booths.
Just cranking.
I was like, Dave, are you going to be here all day?
Yeah.
I thought, maybe it's Friday. We'll peel back the curtain, but Friday here, so nobody's in the office, at least yet.
And just for the benefit of our small handful of listeners, the Graffito currently, we're back in the office. No surprise, we've been back in the office for a long time.
Ish.
I mean, I'm here every day. Leasing team's here on and off most days.
Are you doing that to shame us, or do you just need a place to work?
No, it's just a factual statement. I'm just here every day.
No, but what leads to the factual statement? Do you just like to get out of the house, or you have too much going on in the city?
I just have my stuff here.
Yeah.
Like it's just where all my stuff is.
Yeah. Fair.
And it's been nice to be back in the office.
Yeah. So we're here 2 days a week, basically.
Yeah. Everyone's here Monday and Monday and Thursdays.
Yeah. It's nice. We have lunch. We go over stuff. It's very nice. But we're here on a Friday now, and it took me 25 minutes to get into the office from Melrose. So I'm wondering if we should switch to a Friday, because the commute is ridiculous. There's no one around.
Yeah, city's still dead on Fridays.
Fridays, what other day? I guess Monday isn't as bad. Thursdays are always terrible. But
I think Fridays are noticeably less busy in Boston, downtown. Our office is right next to South Station. The train is less busy on Fridays. The roads, everything.
Did you take a train in today?
Today I drove in because I have 2 tours over in East Cambridge after this.
Same place?
Yeah, Atwoods.
Atwoods, yeah.
So I'm gonna rock over there, and then I gotta get over to Kendall, and then I gotta get back out to Newton. So I drove the Bolt. We talked about that last season.
For Atwoods, do you think it's gonna remain kind of a music venue?
No.
That's gone. Why do you say that so positively?
I think operating a small room venue is wildly challenging. It's not money making. I think that it's important for the ecosystem here in Greater Boston. There is no doubt. It's actually important for the AAGs and the Bowery Presents and the Live Nations of the world, because their pipeline, their future artists who are going to sell out 500 person rooms, and then 1,000, and then 4,000 at Roadrunner, and then arenas, all those artists and musicians, every single one of them started at 100 person capacity room.
Yeah.
So those rooms are important if you're in the concert and promoting business, but to run it as part of a bar and restaurant, impossible. It was a passion project for Ryan and Patrick, and moving forward to put in somebody more viable and sustainable, or equally viable and sustainable. They were there for 16 years. I think it's going to end up being a tavern first, and then hopefully there'll be a successor entrepreneur who's willing to kind of continue on with some of the music programming. But they were doing 7 nights.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to someone about Atwoods, and they were just mentioning all the shows they'd seen, all the musicians they know that used to play there. So I think that'll be missed. But listen,
it will definitely be missed.
But what can you do? I mean, it has to be financially viable for somebody to be in the space. Yeah,
and I think the majority of the interest, just to say it out loud, has been from folks who are interested in the music piece, but don't have the infrastructure, the ability, the team to book 300 plus shows a year.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Plus, especially after COVID, where that whole industry was shut down. I mean, it doesn't seem too appealing to get right back into it. I mean,
although it's come back. Like, I think we've seen just revenues for entertainment.
It's come back, but I still think in the back of people's minds, they feel like they need something to revert to if this happens again, or something like this happens again.
Oh, you mean from a modeling perspective?
Yeah,
business perspective.
Whether it's in their subconscious or not, it's hard to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to open a music venue, looking at the last 3 years and being like, well, that didn't work out during the pandemic. So there's some
built-in trauma.
Maybe.
I would say what's actually more acute.
Built-in trauma. I like that.
That was good, right? I saved those lines for only the podcast.
Thank you.
That's why I've sounded like such an idiot the last year.
No, it's because I say things I can't put my finger on it, and then you can come in and steal it. Yep. Good.
So one of the things that's super interesting, what did I say? Built up trauma?
Built in.
Built in? No, I think I said built up. Built in? We'll go back and check. Yeah, that's what we can do.
Yep.
I think the other thing that is very much a product of the last 3 years of trauma, there we go again, is I think there's just a lot of burnout out there. So I think folks who, whether or not it's viable for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years, just getting through the last 3 was so challenging, and so many ups and downs that we're hearing from a lot of operators. They're just tired. They're just burnt out.
I saved some topics for today. We talk a lot.
Yes.
We're all very close, a little family here. Despite the fact that we talk a lot, I do save some things because I know we're going to be doing podcast stuff. So I do want to talk about a few things. The first one.
So you've been saving questions the last few years, just waiting for this episode.
One of them is about a raise. I thought now would be a good time. No, I saw when I was actually on vacation, there was an article that came out in the Globe about electricity versus gas in commercial ranges. There was also a discussion in politics
There's been a
about
ton of stuff
about gas ranges in homes, which
Yes.
I think is crazy.
Oh, so you're talking about the specific article that Deborah first
yes.
wrote about.
Yes. I know she interviewed you for something else, and then she came back around to talk more about this topic.
Yeah.
And the thesis is what? About gas versus electric in commercial kitchens.
I don't know if there's one singular thesis, but the current reality is that from a regulatory perspective, from a political perspective, from a sustainability perspective, it is very clear. I shouldn't say this is clear from a politics perspective, but it is very clear from where the building science is going, where the industry is going, that we are moving, rightly so, towards the electrification of real estate. When I say electrification, I mean moving away from using fossil fuel to heat, to cook, to run dishwashers, to warm water, etc. So major impact to retail, right?
Yeah.
The vast majority of restaurants we go into, historically and still today, they are, we'll just focus on cooking, they are cooking using gas, natural gas.
Right.
And that has been the norm in Massachusetts for a long time. But what's happening now is that as buildings, because of code, because of, as I said, building science,
Green initiatives,
bingo, start to go all electric. Well, guess what? In the mixed use context, what does that mean for their ground floor? It means that restaurants are going to go all electric, and that has all sorts of impacts in the way restaurants are designed, in the way utilities are consumed, in the way chefs potentially cook.
Yeah. And we work in a lot of new developments.
Bingo.
So if we're bringing a chef into one of these spaces, that's just the way it's going to be. It's going to be an electric kitchen.
Yeah. And I was talking to Deborah first for an article she did at the beginning of the year about like themes, restaurant themes and things to be aware of in 2023. And one of the themes that I talked about was the electrification of kitchens. And we're going to see a lot more restaurants, both fast serve and full serve, opening that are all electric. You know, Clover opened at the Prudential Center. They're all electric. There are other examples that Deborah talks about in the article. We can probably link it or something, right?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And I think I have kind of a pros and cons list just based on this article. Starting with the pros, I mean, you've mentioned a lot of them. One of the reasons they're doing this, first of all, it's going to be mandated by the cities that new construction has.
Well, you're saying you're not saying it's a pro. You're saying the reason it's going to happen.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So sorry. So
realities.
So the kitchens are going to be more comfortable to work in.
Yeah. Less heat. Can be designed differently.
Less air conditioning.
Yep.
Which saves money.
Yep.
But the cons.
Yeah.
From what I gather from this article, really high startup costs.
You know,
the equipment's more expensive.
Yeah, although I will say we'll come out. We've been working a lot on this at Graffito to understand the real world consequences of this move
for landlord and tenant.
But ultimately, like, forget landlord and tenant. Just for example, to your point, like, what's the cost of building an all electric kitchen versus a traditional kitchen that has certain gas fired equipment? I don't think it's as much as what everyone is saying. And we're working on a test case. We're pricing out a full serve large format restaurant, and we're looking at the delta between if they went the traditional way, which they did because they've got gas fired range, gas fired hot water heater, etc., versus if it was an all electric project. And I bet the delta is going to be under 10%. And I'm not saying that 10% is a lot in the course of build out. I actually think the delta is probably going to be under 5, but I'm going to be conservative.
And with projects we're working on, the landlord could pick that up. So the restaurant's not burdened with a really expensive setup, maybe?
They could. And the reality is that many landlords are going to have to pick it up because at the end of the day, especially for local restaurants, you have this many dollars to invest in a restaurant. And, you know, we're not going to go into how hard it is to raise money today, both traditional and non-traditional capital, but you know, the delta typically on our projects falls on the landlord because the tenants are very cash constrained relative to our clients. That also may change given the overall economic environment that our landlords are willing to put in less money. But
and as equipment becomes more popular and more in production, those prices will go down. So the other thing that's mentioned in this article is electricity costs.
Totally.
At 0.2 to 2.5 times.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
We're actually working with this really great firm from New York City. I'll tell you 10 who many of our clients know. And what's so fascinating is that the overall energy load goes down, but the consumption and use of electricity goes so far up. And because of the pricing of electricity in Massachusetts and many other places, very expensive electricity in Massachusetts, it's much more expensive than if you were using, doing the same thing in the kitchen, but as with a gas-fired appliance. You're just paying more for that electrical, for the utility.
You always think, gas is the most expensive utility.
Well, it's so subsidized in this country. That may change too.
Yeah. And then I also thought it was interesting that restaurants that require walks have a real issue.
Did that come up in the article?
It did, from Sumiao.
Yeah.
Those woks are powered by these huge flames
that wrap around.
Yeah. And it not only is about heat, but about how the vegetables are cooked, about how the food is cooked. That's a tough one to get around.
I mean, cooking is really about heat, right?
Yeah.
So I think there will be a solution for the wok challenge. I bet there is one out there. We haven't done the full research.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, I thought that was interesting. These are the types of topics that come up that I don't fully understand when they come up. And I'm glad I waited 3 weeks.
Yeah, and it's wild. I mean, I'm not sure how many people who are going into or starting careers or mid-career in retail real estate, whether in the leasing, the asset management, property management, et cetera, development side, think that they're going to have to become experts on what it means to transition from buildings that have gas service to buildings that are all electric. But I mean, this is sort of the nuance. We have to understand.
How have chefs been responding when you talk to them about this?
It's very interesting. The vast majority of usual suspect chefs in my network, many of which I would add are white men who are used to getting what they want, don't even want to talk about it. They're not used to it. They think it's ridiculous. They cook on gas. It's just not much of a conversation. The next generation, younger chefs that are, relatively speaking, more diverse, more women, more entrepreneurs of color, they're far more open to it, right? Which is refreshing, candidly. And I think it speaks to the fact that for many of these entrepreneurs, just to get to where they are, they've had to be more flexible because of systemic racism. Whole nother topic, perhaps, for this season. And they've been really open to it, which is really exciting. And, I think I was quoted in that article, like, it doesn't really matter what the chef community says today, because we're heading in this direction anyway.
Yeah, they're going to have to do it. And they'll go kicking and screaming. But at the end of the day, if they want the opportunity.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And if they want to continue cooking, I mean, I think 10 years down the line, like.
It will be interesting, though, to see what chefs turn down new developments or new construction to find something old just so they can be in a more classic kitchen. I mean, I'm sure that's going to happen.
Yeah, I still think we're going to have in 10 years certain kitchens that are wood fired and gas fired and all this other stuff. It's just not going to be the norm.
Yeah. All right. There was one other thing I wanted to talk to you about. This might be sensitive for a public outlet, but I hear about these projects and they take forever.
Yeah.
They take forever. Like, there's an L.O.I. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but okay, there's an L.O.I.
You mean like our leasing project?
Yeah, leasing on the leasing side, right? Because we do strategy, but then we do leasing, and then we have the creative stuff. But the leasing stuff puzzles me because I hear a project's underway, and 6 months later, I'm still hearing that the project's underway. Like, why do these projects take so long?
Yeah.
And I know there's delays in construction. And that is a whole other thing. But just getting somebody into a space that looks like it's ready to go, why does it take so long? What holds up these projects?
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because I think we complain a lot in the office, particularly the leasing team, or more commiserate.
I don't even know if it's not even complaining. I'm just observing. Yeah. I'm like, hey, I thought we're done with that.
So there are all these moments and all these periods throughout the evolution, the course of trying to get a space leased. I think what you're talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, is that even from the moment where we think we found an operator for a space, to get from selecting an operator and getting an LOI done to like a lease signed and then to actually that restaurant opening, you're talking about that period versus we start leasing a project.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Because there are, of course, it takes time to find the right person.
Once we found the right team.
Oh, great. Found the right person. 8 months later, oh yeah, there are delays or what holds these processes up?
Oh, so many things. So The hypotheticals we found, we don't even need the hypothetical. We've got like 20 of these deals. So we found the operator. We signed an LOI, which outlines kind of the basic terms of the deal.
What does that stand for?
Letter of intent.
Okay.
Some people call it a term sheet.
Is it kind of like a pre-lease?
It's a non-binding letter that is oftentimes executed, actually the majority of the time executed, that is an indication by the parties of the basic business terms that they are willing to move forward with and incorporate into a lease document.
So it's an agreement that we're all on board.
Yeah, and it's a really effective agreement because it's probably, our form LOIs are anywhere from 4 to 7 pages.
Short.
The form retail leases we're working on, unfortunately, are 10x that.
Yeah.
So it's a great place for the teams, the landlord and the tenant team, before oftentimes the lawyers get involved and start negotiating a lease document, to articulate basic things like how much rent and timeline and milestones and expenses and option terms and whether or not there's percentage rent and all that sort of stuff. And that takes a lot of work to get to. But to your point, you get a signed LOI, it's non-binding other than some confidentiality provisions, and then it gets shipped off to the attorneys. And oftentimes you're punting on certain issues in the LOI. So for example, we oftentimes will punt on a security deposit because we haven't seen a full picture of the financial health, we'll call it, of a tenant. So we'll say, hey, we don't want to commit to a security deposit because we want to understand, like, are you signing this as a single purpose LLC? Is it a holding company?
Right. And that stuff happens with the lease when it gets legal.
And a lot of tenants are saying, well, I'm not going to share with you full financials until I know we have a deal.
Yeah, right.
So there's all this stuff that gets punted. So you've got the lease gets drafted by the attorneys, and the attorneys have to go back and forth. Once the parties have an LOI, it also gives them comfort to start spending money sometimes on due diligence related to design and construction and permitting. And there's just such a multitude of issues that can be wild cards between the time the LOI is signed and the actual lease is signed, and particularly in this environment where it's hard to get pricing.
For construction and build out.
It's hard to get good pricing because things are so in flux. And in retail, you're not getting guaranteed pricing.
If I need a liquor license, do I do that as soon as I get the LOI, or do I really need to wait until I sign a lease?
Well, it's a great question. I think we'd love to say, once we have an LOI, we think this deal is going to get done.
Most deals do.
Most of the deals we work on, we lose deals between the LOI and lease signing phase. But it doesn't mean it takes a really long time.
Yeah. And I know we can't publicly announce people just because an LOI is signed. I think we usually have to wait.
Yeah. For example, and you can start to look for a license, but until you have a binding lease agreement, you're probably not going to sign a purchase and sale agreement, put down a deposit. So there's this second moment in time where until you really have a lease signed, you don't want to go hard on deposits. You don't want to spend a ton of money, but there's certain information you need to sign that lease.
Right. So you wait until you've got that lease going.
Yeah. And then the time between lease and opening, those timelines are stretching too.
Yeah. And why is that? Stretching more than usual.
Stretching. Yeah. If we look back, and we've been doing a better job at Graffito looking back at the data we've generated over a decade plus of operations, the time between signing a lease and opening a restaurant has gotten longer. And not just restaurant, like all of our projects. Much of that has to do with staffing. Cities aren't staffed as well. Permitting's taking longer, as an example. Oh, by the way, architects and contractors are having their own staffing issues. Everything is just taking a lot longer. And it's really too bad. It costs everybody money the longer these deals drag on and on and on, because everybody's into it for so much. And, you start to get a return when you open for business. Yeah.
So really the issue, the LOI to lease is anybody's guess how long that's going to take based on all the parties involved.
Yeah. The LOI to lease signing and to your point, all the parties and all the third parties, there are just so many factors.
And it is tragic then, I imagine, if somebody signs an LOI in the lease, something happens. Because you got to basically go all the way back.
Yeah. And it happens. Not the majority of the time, but it happens often.
Yeah. That's when I see Dave banging his head against the glass.
Yeah.
That must be, yeah. Right.
And Dave's been doing it long enough where I think he does, he doesn't get flustered.
He doesn't get flustered, and he doesn't get his hopes up. He's usually pretty good about, well, until this is done, it's done.
Yeah. I used to be of the mind, it's like, hey, once we sign that lease, easy sailing, this thing's going to open. It's a done deal. Not anymore. Yeah. It's really not. It's not until these restaurants or retailers open.
One other question before we wrap this up, and on a similar note, I also hear that clients can be difficult. Can we talk about that?
Difficult clients?
Yeah. What what makes a client difficult?
Oh, this is a loaded question.
Because it also holds up projects.
Yeah.
Should we move on? I don't want to.
Let's try to answer this. What makes a client difficult?
I mean, no one listens to this, so it doesn't really matter what you say.
Yeah, so I can just go for it.
Yeah, I think so.
A lot of our clients aren't clear on what their own needs, vision, and aspirations are. So they leave us guessing. We've done a better job of trying to pin our clients down on like, what are you looking for here? Both from an economic perspective, also from the identity of the operator. Recently, really spurred by our work from an anti-racism perspective, we are trying to work on more and more deals and recruit operators that are Black, brown, female-owned enterprises. For example, many of our clients aspire to do the same thing, but are they really committed to that?
Right. And we don't find out until later.
Yeah. We never really find out about our own clients' ability to execute on a deal, to follow through with their commitments, their vision, their aspirations until we have kind of a real life test case. And, one of the things is, how are decisions made with our clients? Are they made by committee? How many parties are there? And how organized are they? How organized are they? We can edit that out. How organized are they?
I like when you make mistakes.
Okay.
That's reminds me that you're human.
So organization is a big one. Many of our clients just may have expertise in certain areas, but they just haven't put together a proper landlord work letter before. So we got to go and do that. And then many of our clients, candidly, I think end up overthinking things and second guessing themselves and second guessing us. And some of that is healthy and really important. Like, we should stress test every material decision we're making on deals. But I think there's a certain churn that a lot of our clients have that slows things down and is counterproductive, and tenants do it too. Right. And then of course you got personalities. You just got to deal with different humans.
Is it easier? It's obviously easier to work with smaller teams, I would imagine.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But again, with larger teams, you typically have access to more resources and more experience. So it goes both ways. We have not done a great job figuring out what makes a good client versus a challenging client. I won't say bad, but I will say we've always come back to this one sense that our clients either really care, like they want to do good work. They want to activate their space. They want to work with best-in-class local operators. They care who the identity of that operator is and that team. And so they either care or they don't. Some clients just don't care. They just want to see a space filled. They just don't want to deal with the headache of retail. They just don't want to be in the business. And if you don't care, those are not great clients for us. Right? If you're just looking to fill out a spreadsheet and be done with it and move on to the next, that doesn't work for us.
Yeah. All right. Now I know. Now that I'm here, do you have any questions for me about my work? Do you know what I do here at Graffito? Do you ever have questions about what we do?
3 years. So I know. 4, 3?
2000. Yeah. 3 years. Yeah.
I have a decent sense of what you do.
Yeah.
I haven't really understood what you did the last year once we finished the podcast. But now I know what you do,
Yeah. No, that's okay. I know we're sort of a mystery in the back of the office.
I'll ask you, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please.
What makes a good client from a Graffito ID perspective? Like the folks that we're working with on branding and design projects, like what makes a good client in that space?
Well, that's a good question because we do things a little bit differently. We ask for a little more collaboration from our clients than I think most design firms will do.
Most design firms, but not necessarily like the rest of our team.
Well, that's why we fit in so well here.
Right.
I think the philosophies that you believe in here and the way you deal with clients is very similar to how I've always thought it should be done and how I used to do it when I was on my own, which is a much more collaborative process. It's much more iterative. It's not being afraid to go quickly and get feedback as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I remember when I first got here, you were showing clients deliverables before they were due. And I always thought that was just so interesting because you're basically saying, look, you're going to get this. It's going to be a packaged thing. I don't want to just give it to you and for you to just take I want you to have some preview. Input and a preview because you're going to be sharing it with clients and your other team. So why don't you be a part of this? And I very much believe in that. I think it's a great way of going about doing things. And also it eliminates surprise.
Totally.
I don't believe in the design world that it's great to have surprises. I do think there's a reveal moment that's very exciting for the client, but at the same time, you shouldn't be showing them something that they're not going to want, right? You want to understand what they want. And so by doing it the way we do it, I think we then eliminate some of those challenging moments that could happen with other clients.
Great answer, Drew.
Yeah.
You're a very good podcast guest.
Yeah, well, thanks.
You're welcome.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there are clients that want to see every option, every possibility, and, so it can take longer, but that's okay. I mean, a lot of times those are little tweaks and little things that we're able to manage.
Well, that theme of like client engagement and collaboration, like I think you nailed it. I mean, we're all better at what we do when our clients A, care, and B, are willing to put in the time with us to figure stuff out.
There's a fine line because we're facilitators.
Yeah.
We're trying to get someone from A to Z, and we're not saying we have the answer from A to Z, but we're going to help them get there.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be creative and to show them ideas and things that they wouldn't have thought of. So there's a very fine line between like, you tell us what to do and we'll just move the mouse around and get to where you want to go creatively. But it's more like, tell us what you're thinking, what you're doing, and then let us come back to you, and then let's talk about it. And then let's try again, and then let's talk about it. So you want the client's feedback, but you don't want it to dictate the process. And that's the fine line. Like that's where it becomes, I think that's where you could get into trouble, where you're basically just doing what they want.
And you and Brooke are very good at defining, being clear, and following through on process. It's been a good learning experience.
I think so. We haven't had any complaints, and people keep coming back to us and referring.
And you're organized, like just within.
We're so organized. And part of that is also being here. There's less pressure on us to bill per hour, or to just make something happen. So we're able to take on the amount.
Yeah, there's no don't make something happen. Just make something not happen.
We can take on projects without stacking too many projects. So and I'm huge on like customer service and just getting back to people and getting them what they want when they need it. And if you stack too many clients on top of each other, that can't happen. So we're very smart about the projects we take and how they sort of ramp up and die down and fit into each other. So that's also really deliberate.
All right, last question.
Yeah, sure.
So I noticed you're wearing your Graffitos, your socks.
Oh yeah.
Graffito branded socks. Yeah. I'm wearing my Graffitos also.
Yeah.
Graffitos? That was weird. Graffitos. No, Graffitos.
Graffitos, yeah.
Graffitos, yeah. What do you think of the socks?
The socks are great.
Yeah.
We just got to figure out the sizing issue.
Agree.
But the socks are great.
Because
but we can't do them again.
Why?
You realize that. It's been done now. We have to kind of move on.
Yeah, we still have a lot of socks.
We do.
If there are people listening and they still want
although sending those things out was a nightmare. I'd rather not do that again. Feel free to stop by.
But you like the way they feel on your foot.
Well, they're actually very good. And I get a lot of compliments from my family members because I gave some to my family members. But yeah, we got hoodies. We got to figure out what's next.
I think we've done okay. I didn't love the hats.
I know you didn't like the hats because nobody wears them.
Yeah.
It was a good try.
Hoodies are great. Backpacks are great.
A lot of people love our hoodies. They're just comfortable.
Yeah.
I think if it didn't say GSP, they would still like them because they're so comfortable.
For anybody who's made it this far.
Oh my God. Are we still recording?
I think we're still recording.
I forgot how to stop it.
I think we have some hoodies left. So reach out to us. If you
actually take a look in the office. Do we?
We'll figure it out. If you've made it this far, you're going to get something.
Yeah. If you're a guest, you mean?
No, if you've listened this long.
So everyone that's listening gets a hoodie?
If you reach out to us and say, hey, we listened through the end and we
just
heard
prove
you guys.
Just prove that you're listening to this.
We'll send you some socks.
And we'll send you some swag.
T-shirt, stickers.
By the way, the postage went up. So those socks now are not easy to ship out financially either. We made it right in time. We got those things out.
Good job, Drew.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, listen, I think so far so good.
Right on time, 9:59.
I'm looking at the monitor and the little squiggly things are still going on.
Yeah.
So that means that the mics are on. Dave is in his booth behind us. This will be interesting to have people in the office. I wonder if it'll work. We'll see.
While we're recording.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. We'll get some more voices on.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Tanya hasn't been on a
No, I don't know if she wants to.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's kind of shy. I think
Angela has.
Right? Angela has. Melissa was at the very end of last year.
Yeah.
So. All right, cool. Well, thanks for listening. I don't even have my usual
notes
thing written up to end an episode.
We should just end it.
I would mention Twitter, but
it's where things get weird.
Twitter's about to explode, I think.
Yeah.
And nobody's following us anyway.
Yeah. I'm not on Twitter.
Instagram is Graffito SP.
Graffito SP, yes.
Graffito.com is our website. We have huge changes coming to our website.
Oh, yes.
This summer,
exciting.
I think.
Yep.
We could do a whole podcast walking people through our website, which I'm sure would be fascinating for people.
Yeah, they'd love it.
By the way, well, I was going to ask somebody for advice out there, but maybe it's not a good idea. I think we'll be okay.
idea.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see who responds to the...
Yeah.
Let's see who wants
Graffito SP, graffito.com. Email us at podcast@graffito.com.
Maybe some ideas for not this next season, but for perpetuity. Like, who should we talk to on the podcast?
Well, there is no... Season 3 is going to be a perpetuity.
There's no season. It's just...
Well, there is a season.
That's true.
It's just when we're
just forever.
Old and gray, which is kind of happening now. There's season 3 is going to be going.
Yeah. So ideas for season 3, let us know.
All right, cool. Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, DK.
And thanks everybody for being patient with us. And because I know you've just been, standing by waiting for episodes to drop, but now rest assured we are back. And now Melissa can leave me alone.
Yeah.
Because we're recording again. We are doing the podcast. Again. The equipment's here. I'm not taking it away. Okay. Thanks everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.